Everyone tells you to be humble, think of others, don't be selfish. They say it softly, like guidance. But Nietzsche discovered something sharper. That whisper is a cord tied to your throat. It keeps your ambition quiet, your boundaries thin, your voice apologetic. If you feel guilty for putting yourself first, if you clench when you ask for a raise, hush your desires in relationships, or explain why you need time to create, this guilt is not a moral verdict from the universe. It is inherited programming. And tonight I'll show you where it comes from, why it's been lying to you, and the first, non-moral step to take that gives you permission to be ambitious without shame. Feel this as a pattern interrupt. Guilt about self-prioritization is not proof you're a bad person. It is proof that you have absorbed a moral system designed to keep certain people small. Nietzsche called it slave morality. It's not an accusation, it's a diagnosis. Once you understand the diagnosis, you can treat it. Listen closely. In On the Genealogy of Morality, Nietzsche traces guilt shawled not to God, not to some metaphysical ledger, but to the worldly relationship of creditor and debtor. Guilt began as owing. Over centuries, those external debts became internal. Debts you imagined you owed to others, to God, to a vague moral community. The result is a bad conscience that punishes natural drives by turning them inward. The energetic urge to expand, create, and say, "I want this," is folded into a long list of shoulds. You should serve, you should sacrifice, you should be small so others feel big. That internal voice learned in families, churches, schools functions like a bureaucratic auditor of your soul. It taxes your joy. Modern psychology has a name for this: internalized core beliefs. CBT calls them "I must" and "I should" rules. Jung calls the shadows we refuse to own. Clinical therapists call it maladaptive guilt. Nietzsche calls it the herd's weapon, the slave morality that, born from ressentiment, valorizes meekness and condemns strength. When you prioritize yourself, the old ledger lights up. You owe, you are selfish, you have betrayed the communal story. But you didn't. You inherited a story that benefits the herd by restraining exceptional energy. This is where the will to power becomes critical. Many people read Nietzsche as a handbook for domination. That's a cheap reading. The will to power is not primarily power over others. It is power over yourself, power to grow, to create, to author values. Imagine your life force as a river. Slave morality builds levees to redirect that river into stagnant ponds of guilt. Reclaiming the will to power is dynamite. Break the levees. Let the current become a torrent that sculpts new land. The moral point is, putting yourself first can be the most life-affirming act if done to create, not simply to consume. This is practical, not theoretical. Right now, do this micro-experiment. Name out loud one thing you have stopped pursuing because you feared being called selfish. Say it as if you were whispering a secret to yourself. Feel the small tightness that follows. That tightness is the echo of the creditor ledger. Recognize it. You are not obliged to obey it. But don't mistake liberation for license. Nietzsche never advocated callousness dressed as strength. Genuine self-prioritization is disciplined, creative, and responsible. It is the master morality that says yes to life and takes responsibility for the consequences. It is not vindictive. It builds, not merely conquers. Here are the foundational tools you'll begin to use. First, the genealogical test. When guilt arises, ask, whose voice is this? Family, church, a particular relationship? Trace the origin. If the voice began outside you, treat it like external conditioning, not truth. Second, the value audit. Write 3 values you actually want to live by, words you would choose if you were making them today, not recycling your ancestors' list. Third, apply the eternal recurrence test, Nietzsche's thought experiment that cuts through sentimental obligation. Imagine living this exact life, with these choices, an infinite number of times. If the notion of repeating a choice forever fills you with dread, that choice is not affirming your life. If it fills you with fierce, yes, that is your path. These are philosophical devices, but they have psychological muscle. Cognitive reframing, values clarification, and behavioral experiments, these are secular cousins to Nietzsche's tools. When you reframe guilt as an inherited rule rather than a moral condemnation, you reduce its physiological power. Cortisol drops, decisions become clearer, assertive behavior becomes possible. Now a concrete, repeatable practice, the ledger exercise. For 7 days, keep a small notebook. Each evening, write 2 columns. Left column, moments you felt guilt for prioritizing yourself. Right column, factual consequences. What actually happened after you put yourself first? Did a colleague get angry? Did someone respect you? Was your work better? You'll see patterns. If your guilt predicted disaster and you were wrong most of the time, that ledger becomes evidence against the internalized auditor. If your guilt was right in some cases, you learn nuance. Prioritize wisely, but do not surrender to blanket self-denial. But there is another test earlier and sharper than the ledger: motive inspection. Nietzsche insists motive matters. Are you putting yourself first to create, to craft excellence, to bear a responsibility you choose? Or are you acting out of reactive envy, wanting to possess what others have to soothe a small self? The first motive is creative power. The second is ressentiment in camouflage. You can cultivate motive clarity by asking, will this action expand my capacity to produce value? If yes, it is aligned with the will to power. If no, it's probably reactive. Ethics must remain central. The transformation I'm offering is not be ruthless to everyone, it's become the person whose flourishing benefits you and others because you have more to give. When you are stronger, you can mentor, you can invent, you can contribute to the world. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not a tyrant, he is a value creator who bears responsibility for consequences. Real strength contains empathy, because the strong who break the herd mentality often invent better ways for all to live. Here's a quick boundary script to practice this week. It's short, decisive, and aligned with dignity. I can't take that on right now. My priority is X. If this is urgent, tell me. Otherwise, I'll be available after Y. Practice delivering it in the mirror 3 times. Notice the tremor in your body that used to read as guilt. Each repetition rewires your tolerance for small humiliations and erodes the automatic apology reflex. A final philosophical readout, amor fati, love of fate. Aim to love your life, including the parts where your ambition causes friction. Expect resistance. Expect people who project their own guilt onto you. Expect moments when you waver. Amor fati asks you to affirm all of it as material for your becoming. When you can say, truly, let it be so, your anxiety around self-prioritization becomes fuel for art, work, or leadership rather than a consumption of your peace. If you want the next step, we will turn this foundation into a 30-day revaluation program. Daily micro-practices, negotiation scripts, boundary templates, and shadow integration exercises that make putting yourself first normal rather than transgressive. For now, take 3 actions. Name the one abandoned ambition out loud, do the ledger exercise tonight, and practice the boundary script in a low-risk situation within 48 hours. You are not the author of the ledger that has been reading you for years. You are the author of your values. Nietzsche's radical permission is not cruelty, it is liberation. Put yourself first in the service of becoming who you are. Create, refine, and then contribute. That is not selfishness. It is philosophy that heals. In the next section, we will translate these foundations into a tactical, ethical structure that lets you negotiate salary, set non-negotiables in relationships, and live with less apology and more integrity. Come back ready. We will make your life a work of art, and we will do it without guilt. Listen, the crisis you feel when you put yourself first is not a moral failure. It is the aftershock of a moral furnace. that melted into your bones long before you were old enough to choose. Nietzsche found that furnace. He called it the slave moral imagination, and it operates by one covert principle: convert power into guilt. The cleverness of slave morality is that it hides as virtue: be humble, put others first, sacrifice. Those words become chains. They sound kind. They operate like law. We need to pry those chains loose with two simultaneous motions: excavation and reclamation. Excavation is genealogy tracing the origin of the feeling, exposing its mechanics. Reclamation is revaluation, inventing a new language and practice for living that affirms life rather than punishes it. Both are forensic and creative. Both are radical. Consider the genealogy first. Nietzsche shows that guilt began materially in debt. A man owed a creditor. Punishment followed. The language of owing turned inward. Communities that could not discharge aggression socially transformed it into self-punishment. The instincts bent inward became bad conscience. What looks like moral sensitivity is often domesticated rage turned into an inner jailer. That inner judge learned to praise what restrained itself: humility, meekness, and service. It called this good. It called the opposite evil. Now map that to your life. Where did the voice of guilt come from? A parent's offhand line about not being selfish? A church sermon about humility? A school system that rewarded compliance over excellence? Genealogy is simple. Whenever the shame swells, ask, whose voice is this? Trace the first person you can remember internalizing that rule. When you name its origin publicly in a journal, to a friend, to a blank page, the voice loses some of its metaphysical authority. It becomes history, not destiny. Next, master and slave. Master morality does not mean tyrant behavior. It means value creation by those who feel themselves strong enough to create. Good is noble, powerful, life-affirming. Bad is weakness. Slave morality, by contrast, inverts. It praises suffering and resentment and calls the master's life force evil. The crucial insight: when you feel guilty about asking for what you need, you are often doing the slave's work. The question you must ask yourself is not, am I selfish, but am I alive to create values that improve my life and, thereby, what I give? If the answer is yes, if your ambition is aimed at creation rather than simple accumulation, then self-prioritization is not selfishness, it's artistry. That brings us to Nietzsche's will to power, which most people misread as power over others. Reframe it. Will to power is the drive to become more of yourself, to sculpt your life into a form that is uniquely yours. It's not conquest, it's cultivation. Practical translation: whenever you feel guilty, run a motive check. Ask, am I choosing this to produce, to create, to expand capacity that benefits me and others? Or am I acting from reactive shrinking, envy, compensation, a hunger for validation? The former is will to power, the latter is ressentiment in costume. Now apply the eternal recurrence as a concrete test. This thought experiment is brutal because it strips away social rationalizations. Imagine living your life with the choices you are contemplating over and over for eternity. Would you affirm them? If you would not willingly replay a life where you lived apologetically, you have evidence that your current scripts are not life-affirming. Use this as a compass. When negotiating, when accepting a role, when setting a boundary, run the recurrence test silently. Would this choice be your eternal yes? If not, revise. Psychology supports this rigor. Cognitive behavioral work calls this value alignment and exposure. When you test a small boundary decline, an extra shift so you can work on your project, you gather data. You keep a ledger. Left column, the guilty thought. Right column, what actually happened. Over time, you will discover a predictable truth. Most guilt predicts catastrophes that never occur. Most guilt is anticipatory punishment fed by an internalized judge. That ledger becomes empirical ammunition against the inner prosecutor. But theory without practice is narcissism's cousin. So here are 3 exact practices you must start this week. First, the boundary micro-ritual. Choose one social setting where your default is yes. For 1 week, practice a single sentence. I can't take that on right now. My priority is X. Deliver it without apology. Don't over-explain. Count the times the guilt spikes. Notice the world's reaction. It will not collapse. People recalibrate. You recalibrate. Every unapologetic no is a tiny revaluation of your currency. Second, the will to power inventory. Spend 30 minutes listing things you want because they expand capacity, skills, books, projects, a health routine. Beside each, write the real outcome for your life, what creation it enables. If helping others is your stated value, that will often be best served by your increased capacity, not by perpetual self-erasure. Rewriting your priorities in this expansionist key makes self-prioritization rational, not sinful. Third, the shadow dialogue. In a quiet place, write a letter from the voice of guilt, let it speak fully. Then write a response as the person who owns the will to power, patient, exacting, creative. This is Jungian integration married to Nietzschean courage. You are not banishing the guilt, you are integrating it. Guilt often embodies fear of social rupture. The response negotiates. I see your concern. I will choose, and I accept the cost. That acceptance dissolves neurotic loops. Another crucial pivot is ethics. Nietzsche's critics accuse him of endorsing cold self-interest. That misreads him. The authentic person Nietzsche praises is someone who takes responsibility for consequences. Self-prioritization without responsibility is mere aggression. True self-prioritization asks, what form of my flourishing makes me most able to contribute? The ethical test is consequential and aesthetic. Does your flourishing increase the flourishing of others, directly or indirectly, because you are stronger, more creative, more present? If yes, your self-prioritization is ethical. Prepare for resistance. Some will call you selfish, others will mirror your old scripts to pull you back into conformity. Expect envy and projection. That is proof you have shifted the vector of your life. Remember Nietzsche's insight about ressentiment. Those who cannot create will attempt to condemn creators. Your duty is not to win friends in the short term, but to become someone whose life is a work. Finally, ritualize your courage. Every morning rehearse one short affirmation that reframes guilt. My ambition is a tool for life creation, not theft. I choose, I create, I accept. Say it with breath and posture. Nietzsche wrote aphorisms because thought needs muscle memory. Your affirmation is the modern aphorism, small, repeated, quietly revolutionary. This core work genealogy, motive checks, eternal recurrence, ledger evidence, boundary rituals, shadow dialogue, and ethical responsibility forms a system. It is not a one-off trick, it is a practice of revaluation. You are learning to live by your values, not by an inherited ledger. That yields a profound side effect. The more you become someone who prioritizes correctly, the less you need to perform ruthlessness. Strength becomes its own language, decisive, disciplined, generous, because it is full. So do these things. Trace the voice, run the motives, test the eternal recurrence, keep a ledger, say your no, write the shadow dialogue, and rehearse your aphorism. The work is hard because transformation is always hard, but it is also exhilarating. Nietzsche didn't promise ease, he promised a life that answers to you. Put yourself first, not as surrender to hunger, but as commitment to creation. That is the noblest kind of courage. We now move from diagnosis to decisive practice. How to make Nietzschean revaluation live inside your daily choices. This is not abstract theory. It is a method for reworking the automatic scripts that produce guilt whenever you choose yourself. Follow these practices for 30 days and you will have evidence that your conscience can be retrained, that your values can be made, and that your life can be reclaimed. Practice 1. The ledger of consequences. Every evening, write the moment when guilt rose because you prioritized yourself and then record what actually happened next. Your inner judge predicts disaster, the ledger shows outcome. Most of the time, the catastrophe is imaginary. Conversations recalibrate, people adapt, work proceeds. This data is philosophical ammunition. It converts feeling into fact and weakens the old creditor voice. Practice 2. The boundary micro-ritual. Choose one recurring demand you always accept and decline it once with a brief, calm sentence. Not now. My priority is X. Do not justify or grovel. Repeat 3 times across a week and note the physiological shift. Less stomach knot, more steady breath. Practice 3. The will to power inventory. List 10 ambitions that expand your capacity, learning, stamina, projects that produce value, and beside each write the future you become if you pursue it. When ambition is framed as capacity, not consumption, guilt loses its moral leverage. Practice 4. Shadow integration. Write a dialogue in which the voice of guilt speaks fully unedited, and then answer as your creative self, firm and compassionate. You will discover guilt is not argument, it is habit, and fear rehearsed as morality. Answer with responsibility. I hear you. I choose, and I accept the cost. That sentence rebuilds a neural pathway. Advanced scenarios require moral clarity. When a promotion threatens relationships, test the eternal recurrence. Would you want to live the life that includes this promotion forever? If the answer is yes, accept the friction as cost. If not, redesign the offer until it aligns. Negotiation scripts matter. Refuse to apologize for your aims. Frame requests as mutual gains. Say, I can deliver this result if I have X resources and Y time. That's what I need. Precision dissolves moralizing language. Now ethics. Nietzsche's call to self-prioritization includes responsibility to consequences and to the flourishing of others through your strength. Power without responsibility is mere appetite. Power that increases capacity to give is virtue. Measured ambition produces mentors, jobs, inventions. It creates art and families that would not exist if you had been small. Prepare for social backlash. Understand its roots in ressentiment so you do not internalize it. When attacked for ambition, respond with clarity, not shame. Explain your values and the work you intend to do. If you must repair harm, do so. Repair is not surrender, it is a higher affirmation. You act from sovereignty, not guilt. Community matters. Cultivate a small circle that honors growth and refuses the ledger mentality. Find peers who ask hard questions and do not reward self-erasure. We become what our friends make us. Ritualize growth through micro-goals. A negotiation attempt, a boundary set, a creative sprint. Each is a muscle rep for courage. Measure progress not by applause, but by increased capacity. More time, better energy, clearer values, stronger work. 1 month program. Week 1, excavate with genealogy and ledger. Week 2, set 3 non-negotiable boundaries. Week 3, practice negotiation scripts. Week 4, refine values and start a mentorship. Each week ends with a reflection. What fear appeared? What fact disproved it? Which value did you honor? The most powerful moment is not victory, but the willingness to bear the consequences of choosing yourself. Nietzsche's test is severe. Would you will your life as it is? If you answer with a rising yes, guilt has been transformed into integrative courage. This transformation is aesthetic as much as ethical. You are shaping a life with form, rhythm, and purpose, a work of art. Final practice, public commitment. Tell one person you respect about one boundary you will keep and one ambition you will pursue. This externalizes courage and invites allies rather than permission. In closing, guilt was not designed to make you moral. It was designed to keep a particular social order stable. Nietzsche offers a heavier claim that you must become the artist of your values, relentless in craft, loving in consequence. The practices I gave turn philosophical insight into lived competence: ledger, boundary, inventory, shadow dialogue, negotiation, mentorship. Do them with rigor and humility. Do not mistake boldness for arrogance. If you stumble, return to genealogy, name the voice, and measure the fact. If you succeed, teach someone to do the ledger. The highest ethical act is to enlarge others' capacity to live boldly. Go now and practice the courage to choose. That courage will change how the world treats you and how you treat the world. Nietzsche's permission is radical but accountable. Become who you are, take responsibility for the consequences, and let your ambition be a contribution, not a theft. Imagine a salary negotiation. You have prepared ledger evidence showing your impact over the last year, metrics, and a short proposal. You begin. Over the past 12 months, I delivered X, which resulted in Y. To increase that outcome, I require Z compensation. Simple, factual, non-apologetic. If guilt rises, consult your ledger. What evidence contradicts the feared moral catastrophe? If a friend accuses you of selfishness after a boundary, respond with 2 moves: gratitude and clarity. Say, I appreciate your perspective. My choice was to protect X so I can give better Y. Let's discuss how to meet both needs. That is masterly, not cruel. You will find some relationships cannot bear your growth. That is information, not failure. Part of the Übermensch practice is to curate your environment. Remove anchors that sink you, add mirrors that reflect possibility. Create a rituals list: morning affirmation, weekly ledger review, monthly mentor check-in, quarterly value audit. These rituals make revaluation habitual. Values become habits, and habits become identity. Let's consider an edge case. You inherit a culture that condemns ambition as sinful. Family shame is intense. Genealogy becomes crucial. Identify specific phrases that triggered shame, trace them to context, and rehearse alternative narratives. A useful phrase: I honor our history, but my life will not be governed by inherited debt. Say it aloud until it no longer stings. Then act in small, interpretable ways. Take a course. Ask for money aligned with your value. Protect time to create. When you model growth publicly, you offer others permission. You expand the cultural imagination by example. This scales. One person's revaluation ripples to teams, industries, cultures, when sustained and visible. Final moral anchor: practice generosity from strength. Give because you have surplus, not because guilt demands it. When your generosity comes from fullness, it is noble. When it comes from poverty, it breeds resentment and collapse. So integrate. Prioritize yourself to build surplus, then distribute in ways that sustain you and others. Return to Nietzsche. The Übermensch is not solitary. He is creative, responsible, and generous because strength expanded his capacity. Conclusion: stop apologizing for your aims. Stop treating ambition like a sin to be hidden. Instead, treat ambition as a craft. Refine it, test it, accept the cost, and then show the work. Your mind will supply guilt stories. Your practice supplies facts. Over time, facts overwrite fables. Becoming who you are is slow and courageous. It requires daily tiny acts of creation. Stand with history on your side. Genealogical clarity frees you. Revaluation secures you. Practice makes you inexorable. Now go, choose, create, and accept. Live so that, if life repeated, you would still say yes. Start now. Choose boldly, live responsibly, create relentlessly.